Over to you, Carsten.
Thank you very much, David, and welcome also from me to today's session, which was switched 2 weeks before to the topic Application Express and Oracle Text. And I'm very happy to be able to talk about this topic today, because that's something which is typically underrepresented when talking about Apex or talking about the database, because it's not an Apex feature in the narrow sense. And the Apex applications are not a database feature in the narrow sense. And the value of this comes when we start combining the functionality of the database with the functionality of Apex. And one example for that kind of combination of database features is today's topic, when we will talk about how to enable fuzzy searching. And let me share my screen for this to show you the slides, and I will first walk you through the fundamentals of Oracle Text. I promise to keep that brief, just the very important things, and then we will start integrating Oracle Text with Application Express. A few words on my person beforehand. I'm working for Oracle for a very, very long time now. I started back in 2001. And worked in Germany together with customers and partners regarding all sorts of database technology. And that was also the time when I started to gain experience and work together with customers on Oracle Text, actually. And 3 years ago already, I joined the Apex team. And my focus in the Apex team is working on web source modules, data loading, REST-enabled SQL, and the calendar. And if you wish to see what I'm working on, what my thoughts are, you might want to follow me on Twitter. That's the best way to see what's new and what Apex areas I'm currently touching. Okay, let's start. First, the Safe Harbor. You know this slide from almost any Oracle presentation. Even in this presentation, I might touch some future directions, and as always, don't make any purchasing decisions based upon this, as we could express it otherwise, if the final product looked different than on the slides. It was just a preview, right? Okay, and now let's jump directly into the topic. We will talk about searching Oracle Text and data, and the business problem I want to tackle is Apex applications, or more general business applications, and searching within business applications. And this screenshot and the following two are from the same Apex application. It's the Oracle Employee Directory. And I started with the advanced search dialog, which pretty much reminds me on typical search interfaces in legacy applications. I'm pretty sure almost everybody of you has seen this somewhere, right? And the bad news is that this kind of search is very often the default. So if I'm in a call center and I get a call from a customer who wants to complain about an order, I first have to look, okay, where to put the order ID and the customer ID. So it takes me some time even to fill in that form, right? And then we have a database behind. We know this is implemented using SQL queries. And so we also know, okay, this seems not to be fault tolerant. And I tried it as well. And if I write my name wrong, and based on almost 46 years of experience, I'm used to a lot of spelling variants of my last name. Of course, it finds nothing, right? Okay, Apex comes a bit to the rescue. When we look at interactive reports, we see already a more easy interface. You don't have to worry about where to put your search criteria. You just type it in and fire it, right? But again, interactive reports are still not fault tolerant, right? You have to type your search, your query exactly as it's written in the database, right? Many applications can deal with umlauts or accents on the letters. Others can deal with uppercase, lowercase, but real fault-tolerant search is hardly found in business applications. And the value is obvious, right? in every call center, in every daily office job, right, fault-tolerant search has value, right? We don't even have to discuss this actually, right? So this is good, right? And this is the, I showed this last, but it's actually when you access the Oracle Employee Directory, this is the page you see, right? And you can type something you have understood on the phone, and it will produce matches. In that case, my one is the first. If the similarity is, if the query is less similar, the wanted match might be lower. But the basic thing is I have a fault-tolerant search, I have a fuzzy search, right? And that's what people are used to today. Google shows them every day. So what do we, and before continuing, the interesting thing about this is that Employee Directory, there is no third-party library involved for fuzzy searching or things like that. It's an Apex application and it uses the Oracle database. There is not even a feature involved which requires a separate license. So you can have that with a standard edition of the Oracle database. So you paid for all this stuff already, right? So what we are talking about today is whether to use it or not. And when we try to generalize that requirement a bit, right, then we might come to the conclusion, okay, what do end users want? End users, okay, it should be like Google, right? If you ask the end user how they want to have the search, I think 9 out of 10 will answer, it should be like Google. Okay, the difference between us and Google is Google has a few hundred engineers working on just the search index and the search page. We might be 1 or perhaps 2 developers. However, we have Apex and the Oracle database, and that's good for a lot. So end users just want to enter just words, right? They don't want to specify the order number is 4711 and the customer last name is Zarsky. They just want to type Zarsky 4711 and they want to see an order. It has to be fault tolerant, right? It has to be flexible, right? We want to search for any criteria. It should be as flexible as possible, right? And when we now look at the developer's perspective, the people who have to implement it, more or less us, right? What do we want? What do we want to do? It has to be performant, of course. It has to be maintainable. So that means we don't want to index, assume we have a table with 20 columns. We don't want to index all 20 columns and write a super complex SQL where clause, which says, and where customer last name equals Zarsky and order number equals something else, or something else is null, right? We don't want to have that, right? And we don't want to implement fuzzy logic ourselves, right? It's not easy to do it right, and it's such low-level tech, we just don't want to bother with it. So, okay, Oracle Text comes to the rescue. So when we look at Oracle Text, we might look into the documentation, the handbook, and we will see, okay, Oracle Text, that is a full text index and the search index. Okay, it's part of the Oracle database. There is a separate documentation handbook for this, the Oracle Text Application Developers Guide. And when we browse through that handbook, we will see, okay, it's a lot about searching and documents. We will come to that later on. But we will also see it's part of all database editions that does not require a separate license. And the earliest version, I think, so Oracle Text was in the database even before I joined Oracle. It's available at least since Oracle 7, and if I'm not mistaken, even before, right? But Oracle Text is a full text engine, right? When you look at the documentation, it's searching CLOPS, XML, right? Linguistic stuff, right? And it talks about press articles, descriptions, right? A lot of real full text stuff. But that's not what we wanted to do, right? We wanted to search relational stuff. But wait a moment. The roots of Oracle Text is document searching. That's correct. And that's the reason why linguistic and fuzzy search features are available. But, and here comes the important but, It also supports XML and JSON search capabilities. XML is the most interesting for us. And the XML part is that Oracle Text allows within, imagine an XML document with the text and all the stuff. And Oracle Text allows to restrict a query to a specific section in the XML document. So Oracle Text provides section searching. So give me all documents where containing the word Oracle, but only within a specific XML tag. Okay. Now can think about, okay, what about if we construct an XML document from our relational data, treat it as a document? You might see where this is going to. The only thing which is now a bit ugly is, oh, do we really have to construct XML and materialize XML in a separate table? I give you the answer right now. No, you don't have to. Oracle Text even allows to create these XML documents on the fly during indexing. And when it's done with indexing, it's destroyed immediately, right? So there is a way how to have a text index on top of relational data. We need to do some bridge, some XML bridge, okay? But let's first have a look what Apex delivers out of the box. And when you install Apex, starting with Apex 5.1, Interactive Grid was introduced. And Interactive Grid already has out-of-the-box support for Oracle Text. And the sample Interactive Grids application showcases this. So let's start with application. And I already logged in, as you can see. And when you open the reporting part, then there is a section Oracle Text over here. So go there and you will see an error message. So what does it tell you? It says Oracle Text is not available in your workspace. Okay, contact your database administrator to get the CTX app role granted, and then log out and back into this application. Okay, let's do that. And that's a typical situation because on a normal database with a normal Apex workspace, you typically don't have that role. So that's most often the screen you will see. Okay, so the good news is I'm my own database administrator. And I will now grant that role. And then it says, okay, log out and back into this page. Okay, sign out and sign in again. Reporting, Oracle Text. Okay, it now says something different. It says, oh, we don't have a text index. It's available, but we need an index before we can search. And let's create an index right now. Doesn't take too long. And now we have the demo page, like the other demo pages in that application. And it's again, that names table is used at several places in that application. And let's search for Gustav Eiffel, and of course we will find it. Now that was not a challenge, right? Because I spelled it exactly like it is in the database. But let's try something which might happen in practice. A typical realistic spelling mistake, right? If you don't know who Gustav Eiffel is, it's probable that you try to find something like that. Without Oracle Text, but just a SQL query, you will not find anything, right? But with Oracle Text, we'll find something, right? We can also start using advanced features, right? We want to have this Julius and Italy, and Italy is wrong, as you can see. Oh. And here you can see that by simply creating the text index, we have much more search power than we had before. And we can either just simply type a query, or we can prefix that Oracle Text stuff. I will get to that later on. Okay. Go back to slides. So that's what you can try out today in your own Apex workspace, right? You might need the help of your DBA to get that role granted, but once you have the CTX app role, just fire up the sample interactive grid application and try it out. right? And if you start investigating that application, you will see how it's built. But I will also continue now in explaining how that's actually built. Okay, go back to the fundamentals. So we have seen Oracle Text in action. What are the fundamentals for this? So Oracle Text is a special kind of index. You can see that already with this create index command. It starts looking like a normal create index statement, but then the third line contains some magic words which trigger a special index to be created within the database. And we can create such an Oracle Text index on Varchar cloud columns, on XML columns if we have, and on blob columns as well. So blob columns for index, that's not the case we want to discuss today. I would just like to add it for completeness. If you have Office or PDF documents stored in your database as blobs, you can activate some filtering, and then Oracle Text will automatically convert the binary stuff to plain text and index that. Okay, once we created that index, we can start using it, right? And Oracle Text is triggered with a special SQL operator. The operator is contains. We use the column we created the text index on. We pass in a query. And whenever the result is greater than 0, we will have a match, right? So, and you can already see that's very easy to use that in Apex, right? You can already see the classic, or not the interactive report, but you can already see your classic report based upon such a query. Okay, what can we now put in here, right? Is it just words and Oracle Text will do a fuzzy search automatically? What can we put there? And those who already worked a bit with Oracle Text already know you can put a lot there. Here is just an overview of the most important operators, right? You can use between 20 and 30 different search operators, right? So you can start using Boolean combinations. So you can use doc and cat, for instance, or bracket open, doc and cat, bracket close, or lion, right? So you can use Boolean and or not. You can use brackets and build whatever complex search expressions. You can use wildcard. We can use the fuzzy matching. That's what we I think that the third item here is the one which we are after, right? That's what we want to have. That's for our relational data. That's that's key, right? And if it's about name searching, right? If you know you're looking for a name, like with the employee directory I've searched you before, then there is even a special search operator. That's the ndata. It's a special, a very special fuzzy searching, particularly crafted for name searching, with the goal to provide as many matches as possible. Right? Not just a few, as many as possible, like Google. The 20th in the list is probably not relevant, but it will find a lot of stuff which is similar to what you are looking for. Okay, let's have a look at a few more. So there's some stemming, I think, which is not that important for us today. So that's so if you, for instance, you want to have the plurals while searching for a singular, then the stemming operator might be useful, right? You can have a near operator, and you see this is going to more to document searching requirements. So doc and cat and for. So we want to have documents with doc and cat, but no more than 4 words in between. And then that's the third part is again the important one, right? We want to have a search within a special section. And the last one, again, for completeness, Oracle Text also allows to use a thesaurus, right? So you have to supply the thesaurus to the database first. So Oracle Text comes with the technology. It doesn't come with the thesaurus as such, right? So to use that, you have to provide the thesaurus first. But Oracle Text can leverage that as well. Okay, now we have learned how to create a text index. And we have learned how to use the text index. We have seen we can execute a lot of queries. And when we have a look at that interactive grid page again, we see that we have the interactive grid here. And you see, we don't see a contains query, but when we go to the interactive grid attributes, there is an advanced section. And here we configured the Oracle text index column, so the column on which the Oracle text index has been created. And all the magic happens now behind the scenes. So Apex generates the required contains clause for us. Okay, but we might want to do it ourselves. So we want to have our own table, right, with our own data. And then let's try to rebuild that. Let's try to rebuild such an interactive grid. But, and that's also true, that's a very powerful UI for grid editing and grid display. But to display search results, it's not always the most appropriate UI, right? You might ask, oh, that's nice, but interactive grid, I would like to have a Google-like result page. And we will look into that as well. Okay, let's go back to the slides. So our situation is, we have one, today within the sessions, I will keep it to one table, but in theory, we could even have multiple tables, and we want to have a text index, one single index. I'll repeat that, one single index. Again, to make this very clear, one index on multiple columns or even multiple columns on multiple tables. Yes, that works, right? Okay, in Oracle Text, we will use a feature which is called user data store. And that's a very special thing of Oracle Text. And it's, let me put it that way. In Oracle, normally when you create a normal database index, create index on table, column, semicolon, file, right? Of course, where does the index get the data from? From the column, from where else, right? Oracle Text is a bit different here. In Oracle Text, we can tell the index, create an index on that table, on that column, but get your data from somewhere else. And we can provide a PL/SQL procedure which provides the data to the Oracle Text index. And then we have an index on one column, and the data can be anything, right? We can index whatever we want. And that's what we call a user data store. Our PL/SQL procedure will create some sort of XML from the data. Oracle Text will run that procedure during indexing. The XML will be created on the fly. It will never materialize into a table. The XML will be indexed, and then it will be thrown away. And so the text index walks through your table and creates the index, right? Okay, that's an example for such a procedure, and we will run this in the next few minutes. And that interface for that SQL procedure is mandated by Oracle Text. So Oracle Text requires us to provide a procedure with two parameters. One is the row ID that goes into the procedure, and the TLOG parameter is an in-out no copy, and that goes out of the index. In this case, I use the Waka2 signature. We can also have the TLOG as a CLOB or as a blob, right? But when if you know exactly that your amount of data is rather small, because we are indexing relational stuff here, then we'll take the Waka2 signature. So, and this assumes we have a movies table, right? And you can already see how this works, right? It takes a row ID and it spits something out. So Oracle Text will call this thing for each row ID and use that to build the index. And you see, we build some sort of XML from the table data. And now let's do that, actually. Okay, I'll go back to my Apex application. And here's the first spoiler alarm. You might see some new feature of 19.1, but I will not explain anything because 19.1 or those new features will be discussed in 2 weeks from today. So just sit back, relax. I won't explain it. To get the explanations what's behind this, you have to come back again in 2 weeks. Okay, the first thing we need is a table with some data. So let's go to SQL Workshop. Data workshop and load some data. So we will use copy and paste. We will use an example and upload that example. That looks good. So let's provide a table name and load that data. We might also create an application right now. That makes sense. movies and create application. And then we might have a look into that already. Okay, run that application. That has nothing to do with Oracle text so far. No, that was wrong. And that's our data, right? A nice example, right, with a movie title, with a genre, a director, and a production company. Very nice, so that should be suitable to play with fuzzy searching. And let's now, first thing is we need our text index, right? And I have prepared a few scripts for that. So the first thing is the user data store procedure. We have seen it on the slide, and you see it again here. It's exactly the same thing. So our procedure is called movie search UDS proc, and it follows the interface mandated by Oracle text. It reads a row, and it spits out some XML. Okay? No other direction. Okay, let's run this in our schema. What is this? So everybody can read this. And let's now just run that procedure. It compiles without errors. Very nice. So the next thing we will need is to store some configurations of our text index. And if you want to, by the way, if you want to have those scripts afterwards, I think we will find a way to make them available for download. So we now need a few configurations for our text index. And the Oracle text index is very powerful. So first we have to tell the text index that it has to use that procedure we just have created, but we will also configure a few other fields, right? And the first thing is the fact that our text index has to use the procedure to provide the data. And so we create a preference. That's how Oracle text calls its configuration settings. And we declare our procedure as the user data store procedure. Then we declare a section group, right? And here we declare the different XML tags which we want to search in, right? So now Oracle text knows, oh, there is a title section, there's a director section. And that allows us in queries to specify queries just within specific sections. So then the word list is very special. Another interesting thing is mixed case base letter stuff. So we don't want to have a case-sensitive index. We want to have a case-insensitive index. Case doesn't matter for search, right? And we also don't want to bother with umlauts or accents. So if the German Müller with the U-umlaut is stored in our table and somebody searches for Müller, okay, should work, right? We just want to get the results, right? And we don't want to have only German umlauts. We want to have generic base letter support. So it should strip off all diacritics from letters for all languages. So this script will just create those configuration settings. It will not create an index so far. We will just create the configuration settings and store these within the data dictionary. So we still don't have a text index. And here it comes. That creates our text index. Our text index will be named FT movies on the movies table, the title column. And the parameters of the index will now reference all the configuration settings we created before, right? So that's always the way how it works with Oracle text. First store the configuration settings, then create the index using those configuration settings. Okay, let's run that as well. So take a few seconds. No, not really. It's just 250 rows, right? Okay, now we have an index, and now we might be able to do a first test. I will use. So what do we have then? What's that? So let's try that out. first without Apex. And you see we have the two movies from Robert Zemeckis. And now let's try the fuzzy stuff as well. We are searching not for the CK, just for the single K. And we find the same, right? We can also search we can try out the section searching, right? And of course, now it will find nothing because Zemeckis isn't in the title. Yeah, but Forrest Gump might be in the title. And again, I'm spelling it wrong, right? It's not about the forest, it's about Forrest Gump. But that's no deal for Oracle Text. It will find all these things, right? So that's our first goal, right? We have the table, we have the text index, and we are able to execute SQL queries on top of that text index. Very nice. Now we want to use that in an Apex application, right? And the first thing we would like to use is, again, let's try to rebuild that interactive grid example. So again, go back to the application and create a page. Report, interactive grid, movies grid, navigation, menu entry would be nice. We have our report page. Let's run it. All right, you see the interactive grid. And let me again search for forest, and I don't get anything because Oracle Text is not enabled for that interactive grid right now. Right? So we need to activate this. We go to the attributes and then scroll down to the very bottom, and you will find the advanced section where you can pick the Oracle Text Index column. And let's pick the title column here. And once we did that, it now says search full text, right? Let me again try to search for forest. It still doesn't work. Yeah, we are almost there. In Oracle Text, the fuzzy operator, the fuzzy search, is triggered when I prefix with a question mark. Ah, that works. But when I think about this, I don't want my end users to learn the technical syntax from Oracle Text, right? That's nothing. The end user just wants to type forest and nothing else. So Interactive Grid took care of that. And for the Interactive Grid sample application, we also didn't need to prefix the question mark. So let's go to Shared Components, our component settings, and we can provide component settings for Interactive Grid, right? And here we have an Oracle Text clear SQL function name. What's that? Let's open the help text. And it says, Oracle Text query syntax is complex and powerful, blah, 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 blah. We can specify a name for a clear SQL function which converts an end user query to an Oracle Text query. So it's on us as the developer. And so let's try that simple example. First, create that procedure. Oops. Oh, that's nice. Okay, let's take the other one then. We have to correct the help text, I think. That works. Okay, so these are two examples. One is very simple. The other one is a bit more complex, but that second example also highlights how powerful Oracle Text actually is. Why? Because this is something which uses a feature we call query relaxation. And the idea behind that is we have a large amount of data, right? And if the end user spells the query right, then there is no need for a fuzzy search, right? We can just search sharp, so to say. And only if a sharp search, an exact search, does not produce enough hits, then we might use fuzzy search. Then, if that still does not produce enough hits, we might add a wildcard. right? So that allows us to provide multiple queries and to start with the strongest one, the most exact one, and step by step, relaxing that query until we reach enough hits, right? And that's what this query does. It takes an end-user search, does a conversion, and returns that. So we have created that function convert end-user search. We specify it as the interactive grid SQL text function name. Go back to our interactive grid. And now it works, right? I didn't need to prefix something because now the Apex application together with the SQL function name takes care on rewriting my query to the technical stuff of Oracle Text. Very nice. You now have seen how to rebuild the sample from the interactive grid application with your own table and your own text index. That sounds good. The last thing I would like to discuss is, again, UI. We have the grid, and actually, that's not really what we want, right? So let's do a more Google-like page. Create another page, blank page, so UI, right? No navigation. So we now have a blank page. I will now use the classic report because that provides more ways to configure the layout, and we will now use the query we just used in SQL+, right? But with one difference, we will use the SQL function we just created, and we already use an Apex item for the contains function. Okay. No. Let's provide a SQL query, place it in, and again, we select columns from the table, and we use the contains function. We will create a P6 search item. What the end user input will be passed to our convert end user search SQL function. It will convert the query and pass the result to Oracle Text. Okay, so that is search results. So we need another region for the search field. We need an item. So this is our P6 search item. I would like to stretch that, and I would like to have it large. And the floating label is nice. So the next thing, if the user didn't type something in, there is no need to display results. Let's just condition that out. Only display the results page when the user entered something. Right out. Search field. And this already works. So now we have to style it a bit. And Apex provides very nice alternative templates for classic reports. And maybe a few of you have seen those before. There is a search results template, right? Let's see how this looks. Okay. That looks promising, right? We don't see data yet, but the layout doesn't look too bad. We now need just to have displaying the actual data instead of the placeholders, and that's what this query does. And all the classic report templates work similar, right? The query has to provide column aliases, which match the placeholders here. So we need to provide a search title column, a search release column, and label columns. And if you want to know more about these templates, just have a look into it, right? Everything is open. And here you can review the template. So you can also use a search link to link to a form, for instance. You can, the search title, we have seen that, search these, label 01, value 01. Oh, there's a label 2, value 2, a label 3, value 3. Now we can have up to 4 label value pairs here. Okay, so let's use that. Again, replace the query to the query using the alias names. Use the correct item name. And here we go, right? So we can now search for Forest, right? We can search for the Mac. We can use fuzzy search, right? We can search for, I think that should, no, that doesn't work. I think the year column was not indexed, right? So we can use for everything related to Star Wars, right? And Star Wars Episode 4, right? Everything is there. And we even search for a column which is not displayed, right? The production column. So that is this one, right? That is indexed, but it's not displayed, right? But this might be relevant for practice as well. So you might include columns into search which are not necessarily visible in the select list, right? That's the nice thing about Oracle Text and this user data store concept, that we can index whatever we want, right? And using Apex, we can also provide. So with Oracle Text, the fuzzy search problem becomes a SQL problem, right? So, and that's what I always like about the Oracle database. Whenever we are able to treat our business problem as a SQL problem, we have done half of the work already, because once we have a SQL problem and we can formulate a SQL query to solve the problem, then Apex provides the UI components to visualize it and to bring that to the end user. So we are then almost done. And that was the same. You have seen, once I created a text index, once I was able to execute the query in SQL+, building the Apex report was just a few minutes of exercise, right? Very simple. And the combination of Oracle Text and Apex is really powerful, right? Okay, so we have seen the demos. That's what I wanted to show. Let me wrap things a bit up. So what we have seen is that we have these powerful search capabilities in the Oracle database, right? It's already licensed. Oracle itself uses it. So the screenshots from the ARIA People application, our employee directory, that's one of the most heavily used applications within Oracle. And millions of page views, more than 1 million page views per day, then that uses Oracle Text, right? And since the interface to Oracle Text is SQL, we can use it in almost all Apex components. We have seen there is an out-of-the-box usage in Interactive Grid. You can go with classic reports and the pre-built search result template. You have seen that was almost no work. But if you want to have your own, right, specialized and fancy layout for search results, build your own template. Don't build it from scratch. Use the building blocks, right? You have the SQL, which does the search for you. You have classic reports, which the reporting engine, which fetches the data and brings them onto the page. And you have Apex templates, which is the templating engine to style the output, right? And Apex and the database, everything you need is there, right? That concludes my presentation. I hope that a few of you find this interesting, and if a few of you are now eager to try this out and to play with this, then I would consider this presentation a success. Okay, thank you very much, and now I'm open for questions.
Okay, Carsten, so go back to sharing your screen if you could, please. I've got a couple of questions that have come in. One of them is from Jürgen. He's asking about the text index and whether when you, for example, add a new record, whether the index is automatically updated.
Okay, thanks very much, Jürgen, for that question. I'm just looking up the slide with the create index statement. And when you have that very example I have on the slides, I think this is pretty telling, right? Sync on commit. When you commit your change, the index will be synced, right? Oracle text historically, so this option was added, I think, with 11 or 10. Before that, Oracle text was strict synchronous index, right? So you had to build your own synchronization. And with 10 or 11, as said, I can't remember exactly, we have now this parameter, but there are still a lot of options available to tweak and to optimize the synchronization process. But that's relevant if your amount of data is really, really large. For instance, the ARIA People application, that actually uses 2 indexes. Once a night, there is a refresh from the source databases, then the index is thrown away and rebuilt, right? So that is an even more simple example, and maybe that applies to your situation as well, but you can have the Oracle text index to sync on commit.
Excellent. So now if you could actually just go to that example that you built in the interactive grid.
Yeah.
And could you just use the search column there and select a specific column?
Okay, so title.
Let's not use title. Let's use one of the other ones. So let's use...
That's a director. I know what to type.
Yeah, director. There you go.
So, but of course, that doesn't work, right? We now do a column search. And the director column is not indexed. The full text search is always a row search, right? It's never a column search. Because typically, you don't want to have a full text search for one column or the other column. You don't want to have, so you never want to have more than one text index on your table. If you consider, if you find yourself having say, oh, I need 3 text indexes, one here, one there, stop for a moment, rethink, and think again about the user data store I have shown you, where this procedure collects all the data, produces the data for one index, right? And you have the contains query operators, which I also have shown you. Let me pull the slides again. There is this, here we go. There is this within thing here that allows to specify a search only within a specific section. So this all comes to the conclusion you need one index and perhaps a more complex PL/SQL function which converts the end-user search to your text query, right? And that should be able to suffice search requirements. And having only one index is very important for performance, right? Oracle text applications are performant if you have one and only one text index, right? If you have 2 text indexes, 3 text index, you try to combine them, you are already going down the way of bad performance. One text index is the key to success here, right?
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Carsten. I've got a question here about making the UDS procedure available. Can they actually go into the sample interactive grid app and see similar example in there of the procedure that they need?
Procedure, yeah, let me think. Okay, let's go to the sample interactive grid application. And I think that was it should be this in the supporting objects. Let me see, here is the Oracle Text Helper package. You will find that in the supporting objects. And it's it looks a bit cumbersome. So at first glance, it looks more complex than it needs to be. The reason for that is we need that package to compile also when Oracle Text is not available, right? There are databases out there which don't have Oracle Text at all, right? And we want to compile that package always, right? So that's the reason why this might look a bit strange, right? So here is you can see this is the create text preferences, right? You see the create preference. And this example from Interactive Grid actually does not use a user data store. That uses a multi-column data store. So you now learned about another option to provide data to your Oracle text index, right? If you use a multi-column data store, you don't have to code pure SQL. You just provide the name of the columns, right? Very simple, very straightforward. For the demo I did, I wanted to show you the pure SQL example just to give you an impression that you can have full flexibility, right? But that does also work. So the user data store equivalent is here, right? Here is the sections. Here is the mixed case configuration, the base letter configuration, as you have seen before, right? And here is the create index. And here is the convert text query function, right? All the stuff I've shown you is contained in that package. It's all wrapped into execute immediate statements because the compilation, the package app installation has to work also when Oracle text is not available. And then you have seen that Oracle text, the page in the sample application just shows an error message, right? That's the reason why it comes as it comes.
Okay, excellent. Next question is asking about, can we download the slides? We'll actually make the slides available on SlideShare, and once the video is actually being produced, we'll provide a link to that. So just go back and check back in office hours, and probably late tomorrow you'll be able to do that. I've got another question here from Adam, which is asking about the concept of a complex query that joins multiple tables and changing. Is it as simple as changing the query and specifying the needed columns?
Yes, for multiple columns, you would need, so let me go back to that user data store example here. So if you want to have multiple columns, so the Oracle text index wants to be created on one table, one column, and one table. So you must be able from the table you created the index on, from that row, you must be able to reference all required data, right? So in a typical relational model, so you might index the customer table, and then use a data store procedure, fetches orders and order items, builds that large XML stuff, and builds the text index on top of it. Of course, you now have to add a bit more. So when the orders and order item tables change, right, that customer table has to be notified of that, so that the index recognizes, oh, a row changed, I have to re-index that row, right? So it increases the complexity of this a bit. So you have to do a bit of more coding. You have to think about on a few more things. But the basic message remains the same. You can have one index on all these columns, all these tables, and your queries, and again, that's the key to success, one index, one contains query, and all the complexity of your query is part of the search term within contains.
Excellent. I've got another question here about if there's any version restrictions for using Oracle text. So can you use it on XE, or do you need Enterprise Edition?
So as I think I mentioned it in the beginning, so it's available on all database editions. And it was first introduced, I think, Oracle 7 or 6. So I remember somewhere on my desktop, I have a folder with Oracle 4.1.4, right? And in a DOS box, that still runs, by the way. But if you have something like that, Oracle text won't run, right? So that's a real pity. But for all other databases, it typically works, right?
Well, Oracle Apex 18.2 won't run on anything less than 11G anyway. So hopefully they're at least on 11G. So I've got another question here from iPad. Do the values in the XML need to be escaped?
No, so that is XML experts among us might have recognized that this isn't really XML because it's there is no root check, right? So an XML parser would reject that stuff, right? And that's the reason Oracle text is way older than XML. And so all the XML restrictions and standards don't really apply to Oracle text, right? So actually XML is a lie, right? The truth would be tagged information, right? So no, it doesn't have to be escaped.
Excellent. And I've got another one here from Gary asking, can we order the results by how good of a match it is?
Yeah, you can. I didn't show that. Let me amend the query by this. That's our movies. So this is our, and that brings me to a very important message, which I learned from practice. So to search by relevance, we can have a score function. That's an Oracle text function, and this one references the one here. So we can also use 4711 as long as we use the 4711 here. That's a SQL trick, right, for cases where you have multiple contains clauses. So, but always use the one. So we now, and then of course we can order by score these. So now text results will be ordered by score. And now let me get a very important message over. Do that. Ordering by search by score is super. Sort by relevance is totally okay. Google does it as well, but never ever, and that's a real recommendation from practice. Never ever show the score to your end users. Never ever show that numeric value. I have seen customers doing that. We had a new version. We had the application got a new version. Queries were tweaked to adopt new requirements. And guess what? The scores changed. So the order was the same, but the first hit was not 95 anymore. It was 91. And then end users raised questions, right? Why did the score change? Where is that documented? And sometimes you can't even, that's an internal, the score calculation is internal stuff of Oracle text. It's not it's an ordinal number. It's not a cardinal number. It's a number which is there to order results, right? Never ever show that number, right? Use it, but never show it. Really important thing.
Okay, Carsten, I think that is a perfect way to end this session. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending. In 2 weeks' time, we will be having a great office hours on Apex 19.1 new features. And in fact, we'll have multiple presenters for that session. So I look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks. And with that, I say thank you, Carsten, for this session today. Very informative.
Thank you very much for your attendance and hope to see you soon again.
Goodbye, everyone.